Good afternoon. I am a Westpac shareholder, a customer for over 20 years, and my whole family banks with Westpac. My question is about Westpac's commitment to its stated climate goals. So Commonwealth Bank, your peer among the Big Four, recently announced that it will no longer provide finance to oil and gas producing companies that don't have a Paris-aligned climate transition plan. This is a position that Westpac has not taken, even though both banks are committed to the same global climate goals. Both banks are committed to the Paris Agreement, net zero emissions by 2050, and both banks are members of the Net Zero Banking Alliance. Westpac has not committed to no longer provide finance to oil and gas companies that don't have a Paris-aligned strategy after the bank's supposed deadline of October 2025. Why does Westpac remain open to backing oil and gas companies that are expanding production despite sharing the same commitments to global climate goals as your peer, the Commonwealth Bank?
I'm going to get Peter to comment on it if I can, please, but we strongly believe we have a very well thought out transition plan program for all our clients, and we aren't, by the way, going to be talking about individual clients here. It's not our role to do that, but we are very comfortable with the plans we're putting in place. And as mentioned earlier before, we have over 150 clients being contacted this year with transition plans. 84% of them have actually publicly announced plans. The 16% that haven't, we'll be working with them. We have made enormous strides as a bank this year in reducing our own commitment to or our own financing of oil and gas in this country. So we feel comfortable with where we're at, and we're on a pathway to moving forward there. So we don't see that as an issue. Pete, your thought?
I think just stepping back a bit, we want all customers to have an ambition on transition plans. So that's how we're thinking about the business. And as the chair said, we engaged with 150 highest emitting customers this year to help them, and 84% of them had public transition plans. On oil and gas, we have a requirement that upstream oil and gas customers have a plan in place by 2025. And Kyle, I know you want that earlier and you want us to take action earlier, but we believe we've set the policy and we need to give clients the time to respond. Now, if they don't get there by that date, then I think we will need to reassess our relationship. That it is important that we have customers that are transitioning. Just a couple of, and that's a lot on the policy of how we word it. If I look at what we've achieved this year, just a few stats for you. Upstream emissions, we had a target of 2030 to be down by 23%. We're down by 45%. So we've achieved the 2030 target already. Our oil and gas extraction exposure is $1.8 billion. As Carl said, it's out of a $1.25 trillion exposure book. Again, that was down 28%. Our fossil fuel exposure to the value chain is $6.8 billion, and that was down 11%. So I understand the request for more specificity on the policy, and we will reflect that in future versions of the policy. We had a pretty major refresh of our policies last year with the climate change, and they'll be refreshed in the future. But I think based on our outcomes, we are part of this transition and working with customers on this area.
I mentioned CommBank's announcement just previously. So about a month after that announcement, Westpac participated in a refinancing of a Santos loan, increasing that loan by $880 million and extending its life for 4.5 years. So CommBank was a lender in that original lending syndicate, but chose not to refinance that loan to Santos, showing its commitment to only finance oil and gas companies that actually have a credible transition plan. In contrast, Westpac more than doubled its original contribution in that refinancing. Now, I know you've mentioned that you won't comment on individual clients, but I put this to you. Is being on a path consistent with the Paris goals actually a determining factor for whether or not Westpac will provide finance? Or is this a factor that our company is willing to completely overlook?
Well, I think we can't comment on customers, and I don't think any bank can comment on customers given privacy. But as I said in my previous answer, we've outlined the trajectory that our portfolio achieved this year, and we have a policy that requires them to have a plan by the end of next year, September 2025, and we will be working with customers over that period.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cari. Next question, please.